this is what most superhero movies look like. But the Batman looks like this. While other superhero movies look soulless, flat, and like TV commercials, the Batman looks full of life, color, lightning, and great contrast. In terms of cinematography, the Batman looks beautiful. It just humiliates all the superhero movies we've had in terms of cinematography. But why? What is so different about this movie that makes it look 1,000 times better than a conventional superhero movie? That's what we're going to look at in today's episode of Peak. We're gonna look at why Robert Pattinson's Batman is so unique, as well as filming techniques like messing up the lens and purposely blurring the scenes, to finally understand what makes this Batman movie cinematically perfect and why it humiliates every superhero movie we've had in recent years. The first thing we have to understand is that Robert Pattinson's Batman is a very different Batman than the one we're used to, or that the ones that we've had in live action. So while other live action interpretations give us this more chaotic and action-packed version of Batman, Robert Pattinson's version has only one intention, and this is to show at its peak the only superpower of Batman, which is to be the greatest detective in the whole world. And that is something that the movie tells us straight away in the intro. When I saw this movie for the first time and that intro came in, I knew I was about to see something I have never seen before. This intro is perfect in every way. We have Bruce giving us this monologue about the first year he's had as Batman, how the night has turned him into a nocturnal animal, and how Batman has become a symbol of fear. I mean, Gotham City looks perfect. It's all you can imagine when you think of Gotham in real life. Compared to Nolan's, for example, Nolan's version only needs a Walmart to be a typical American city, but all of this would not be possible without the incredible attention to detail that the director Matt Reeves put on into this film. Things that seem insignificant but make all the difference. Matt Reeves did a spectacular job in his research for this movie. One of the things he did was to investigate in depth all the Batman comics, and from those comics write down everything he found interesting to finally make a story. So one of the things that Matt wanted for his version of the movie was that he wanted it to be a movie where we could see Batman being the best detective in history. So the Batman, it's a detective movie if you think about it. In the Batman, we follow the story of a Bruce Wayne who has barely been Batman for a year. Out of nowhere, a villain emerges who leaves clues at each one of his crime scenes, and Batman has to team up with a detective of the GCPD to follow the clues that the villain is leaving and solve once and for all who he is and why he is tormenting Gotham City. So essentially, the Batman is a typical detective story like the ones we've had in the old days, which in fact that was big part of Matt Reeves' inspiration. Matt Reeves said that he wanted to recreate this feeling that the detective movies used to have, and that's quite noticeable. For example, this scene could easily be a reference to Brad Pitt's movie Seven, or the ciphers that the Riddler leaves behind combined with his appearance that is quite different from the comics could be a reference to the movie Zodiac. Throughout the movie you can see all sorts of scenes and references to the detective movies of the 70s. And this looks amazing, but for this kind of adaptation, you need a different Batman. Christian Bale's Batman or Ben Affleck's Batman wouldn't have worked here. Matt Reeves needed to find the perfect person who could live up to his vision of Batman, and that was Robert Pattinson. But why does his Batman work so well, and why is he perfect for this movie? Believe it or not, Matt Reeves' main inspiration for the vision he had for this Bruce Wayne was the singer Kurt Cobain. For some reason, that's how he envisioned his Bruce Wayne. And what finally made him decide to cast Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne was the first screen test. In this test, we see Robert Pattinson in the Drifter costume with makeup all over his face and Nirvana's Something in the Way playing in the background. This was what convinced Matt Reeves and made him say,
"It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details."
And he certainly wasn't wrong. In this movie, Robert Pattinson gives us a perfect interpretation of both Batman and Bruce Wayne. Robert Pattinson manages to express a lot of emotion despite the fact that most of the movie he has a mask on. I mean, probably even his first kiss was while wearing a mask. I mean, the guy's a pro. In the movie, you can feel Robert Pattinson completely embody the character. You can see that he understands him from the way he walks to the way he fights. Batman fights every villain like it's personal. You can also see what Batman is thinking in every single scene, and that's certainly an incredible talent as well as an exceptional job by Robert Pattinson. Also, something that Matt Reeves was very clear about is that he didn't want this movie to be a Batman origin story. I mean, Matt Reeves knows that we already know this story by heart, so instead of giving us an origin story as such, he gave us something different. This story is more about a Batman who's just starting out. It's an imperfect Batman. So the origin story of Batman is given to us through references like this one when he stares at this boy who has just lost his dad. This scene tells us Batman's story without saying a single word. So since this is a Batman that is just starting out, you need a villain that has a purpose in Batman's story and his development for this movie. That's where the Riddler comes in. The Riddler in this movie has the goal of hunting down the most corrupt people in the government in Gotham City. All of this through riddles and games, what also creates this parallelism with Batman. In this movie, they are both a figure that is hunting the corruption of Gotham and taking justice into their own hand. Obviously, Batman doesn't kill compared to the Riddler, but he can leave you in coma for a year. But don't worry, you'll still be breathing, for sure. But you get the point. This is the similarity between Batman and the Riddler that's most focused in the movie. For example, in this deleted scene from the movie in which the Joker appears, you can see this a bit clearer. Joker is a character who knows perfectly well how to read Batman. And in this scene, Joker tells this to Batman.
I think you don't really care about his motives, whether he loves or hates you. I think somewhere deep down, you're just terrified. You're not sure he's wrong, huh? You think they deserved it?
The Joker is making fun of the fact that Batman deep down doesn't think it's a bad thing that the Riddler is hunting down all the corruption in Gotham. So the point of the Riddler in this movie is to make Batman understand who he really is and who is the person or the symbol that he wants to become. Then he realizes he has been the wrong symbol for people, so falling into the water to save everyone and help people come out into the light can actually be like his rebirth, his baptism, to the new symbol he wants to be for the people. And I honestly think that the Riddler was a key point for this development that the Batman has in this movie. And someone needs to applaud Paul Dano, because I mean, who knew this cute little thing right here could be so scary. So that's why this Batman is a very different version than any other that we've had. And the reason why it works in this movie is because of how well it fits into the incredible world that both Matt Reeves and Greg Fraser created. Every single thing that surrounds this Batman is there for a reason, and each one plays an essential role in bringing us deeper into this world and making us feel like we're watching an incredible detective story while also an excellent Batman movie. But what are the things that make this Batman movie visually perfect? Why does Gotham City feel so different but beautiful at the same time? As I said in the beginning of the video, the Gotham we see in this movie is gorgeous. The buildings, the people, the neon lights, the rain, every single thing that surrounds this city is what makes it perfect and what makes you really believe that this is a place that exists. This Gotham City design is exactly what I'd imagine when I thought of Gotham City as a child and what it would look like in real life. And Matt Reeves did a spectacular job, but a lot of the credit we have to give it to Oscar winner and one of the best cinematographers in the world, Greg Fraser. Greg Fraser is a cinematographer primarily known for how amazing he is at capturing the essence of the film he's working on. His vision with the camera is incredible and makes every scene look like a photograph or a fine art painting. He has worked on productions like Dune, The Creator, Rogue One, The Mandalorian, and much more. And in each one of these movies you can see his stamp and why he is so good at what he does. And for the Batman, he was no exception. Here, he applied 3 techniques that were essential for the cinematography of the Batman to be perfect. Films are usually shot with different lenses that each have a special function so that you can convey the feeling that you need for your film. But Greg Fraser said, you know what, this doesn't work for me. So the thing that he did was completely modified these lenses. In the Batman movie there are things that look like mistakes, but they are completely on purpose. Whether it's a scene that's out of focus or it looks dirty and bladdered. But all of this is completely on purpose, because all of this serves to give texture and depth to the scene. It makes you feel more tension and gives you this feeling of being one more person in the story. To achieve this look, Greg Fraser modified the lenses with which the film was shot to give it a look that was inspired in the 70s thrillers. And if the image looks dirty in the film, it's because the lens, well, in fact, was dirty. Matt Reeves even mentions that Greg Fraser would sometimes put silicone on the lenses to get them wet and give them this raindrop effect. Another feature of these lenses that he modified was one that allowed him to center the image. In the Batman there are several scenes where Batman is centering the image. What this lens did was to give a vignette look to the scene to keep the attention on Batman. Most of the movie was shot based on Batman's silhouette. This perfectly conveyed the feeling that Batman is a character who lurks in the shadows, someone who is always watching and lurking. The point was to take all of the light out of the scene but make Batman's silhouette recognizable. And this was all thanks to the lenses and techniques that Greig Fraser decided to use and modify for this movie. But this was not the only impressive thing about how this movie was shot. And this was something he had learned on a production he had been on before, which was The Mandalorian. A new technique that was essential to the look of this film. This technique is called volume. Volume is a fairly new technique in the film world that basically consists of replacing the use of green screen. Normally in movies, green screen is used to replace the background and put the actors in a completely different environment for the movie. This can be a bit difficult for the actors because it can be hard to picture yourself that you are in the moon when you are actually in a room full of green screens. So this is where this new technique comes in. Volume consists of using a lot of high-resolution LED screens to put the background that you want to use in the movie. This environment is designed in a computer with a lot of detail to make it look as real as possible. And once it's ready, it is transmitted to the LED screens and they can start recording. This is a completely revolutionary technique. Most of the scenes in the Batman were shot this way. These LED lights allow them to modify the light, change scenes, colors, put rain, take it off. They could literally give the scene any feeling that they wanted. Matt Reeves describes that this helped them create their own Gotham City, something that looked like you were looking at a big city, but at the same time, something you have never seen before in your life. And this technology was definitely a key part of making Gotham look as real and as beautiful as possible. Of course, the film was not 100% shot in this technique. This Gotham City was also built with a combination of several real locations. Most of the film was shot in Liverpool because the city has this very distinct Gothic style. Thanks to these two techniques, this version of Gotham City looks so perfect and unique. And the last technique is, in my opinion, one of the most complicated. It's a lot of work, but in the end, it's totally worth it. This technique was something that Greig Fraser decided to do to give it a 70s thrillers look to this film. Problem is that the camera they shot this movie with was excellent. It gave the movie a very clean and perfect quality, but Greig Fraser didn't want something pretty. He wanted something dirty and that had a vintage feel to it. So this is what he did next. There are two ways to shoot a film, digitally and on film negative. Digitally is when the image is saved directly on a memory card in the camera, and the negative is when the image is recorded directly into one of these tapes that are called negatives. So what Greig Fraser did was shoot this film using a professional digital camera. He then transferred the digital recording to a negative, which was then converted to an interpositive, so that finally the interpositive was scanned and transferred back to digital. I know, it's a lot. All of this so that the film could have this feeling of dirt, grain, and give this film the look of the 70s thrillers. That is something that no other Batman movie has ever done before, which makes this movie stand out and be very special. And it is all this combination of techniques that make this Batman movie look cinematically beautiful. The Batman is one of the most beautiful movies out there, and it is definitely the superhero-based movie with the best cinematography. The Batman gives us a beautiful Gotham City, from the incredible buildings to the feeling of what it's like to live in this city. And not only that, it's the role of Robert Pattinson's Batman and how well he fits in this world, because of how different it is compared to the other adaptations of the character. It really is a shame that this movie was not nominated for an Oscar, because in an era where we have millions of superhero movies that are good but can look very commercial, The Batman proves that with a little more effort and love to the project, you can give the audience a quality movie with a spectacular cinematography and an incredibly well-developed story that takes superhero movies to another level. The Batman is not just a superhero movie, The Batman is art, and that is why The Batman is peak cinema. But hey, that's just my opinion and you should just ignore it. Thank you for watching until the end, subscribe for more, and see you in another episode of Peak.